in a valley where the trees leaned toward each other like old friends sharing secrets, and the moon always seemed a little too curious. There lived a quiet boy named Elio. The valley was not very big, but it felt endless when the wind carried stories through the grass. Elio had lived there all his life, yet he often felt like a visitor, as if he belonged more to the spaces between words than to loud conversations. Elio was not famous, not strong in the loud way, and not very good at shouting his thoughts. When others spoke quickly and proudly, Elio paused. When others laughed loudly, Elio smiled softly. He was the kind of boy who noticed things most people missed: how ants carried crumbs twice their size, how clouds pretended to be animals, and how shadows stretched longer when they felt tired. In a world full of noise, Elio moved gently, as if afraid to disturb it. He lived in a small home near the edge of an old forest. The forest had been there longer than anyone could remember. Its roots twisted out of the ground like sleepy snakes, and ancient stones slept beneath thick blankets of moss. The villagers stayed away from it. They said the forest remembered footsteps and whispered names to the wind. They said it watched those who entered and never forgot them. Elio didn't believe the forest was scary. He thought it was lonely. Each evening, after finishing his small chores, stacking firewood, sweeping the floor, feeding the chickens, Elio would wander toward the forest edge. There he sat on a smooth stone shaped like a sleeping turtle. He had named the stone Tilo, though he never told anyone. Tilo was a good listener. Elio liked to imagine stories while sitting there. Some nights he imagined friendly spirits dancing between the trees, tripping over roots and laughing quietly. Other nights he imagined brave animals guarding hidden paths. And sometimes, when the sky glowed purple and gold and the air felt warm and hopeful, he imagined something bright and gentle trapped somewhere, waiting to be found. On one such evening, when the crickets were tuning their tiny instruments and the moon peeked through the clouds like it was playing hide-and-seek, Elio noticed something unusual. A soft glow flickered between the trees. It wasn't bright like fire or sharp like lightning. It was gentle, like a candle doing its very best not to go out. Elio stood up. His heart beat faster, not with fear. He stepped off Tilo and followed the glow, careful where he placed his feet. The light danced ahead of him, leading him deeper than he had ever gone before. Roots curled like fingers near his boots, and branches leaned close, whispering secrets he almost understood. The forest felt different that night. Not watching, waiting. Then Elio saw it. A cage stood in a small clearing, half covered in ivy. It was old and bent, made of dull metal that had forgotten how to shine. Time had clearly been unkind to it. Inside the cage sat the most beautiful bird Elio had ever seen. Its feathers shimmered in shades of gold, orange and warm red, like a sunrise that had learned how to fly but had forgotten where it was going. Tiny sparks of light floated around it, drifting lazily like glowing dust. They weren't hot or sharp. They felt comforting, like warm thoughts. The bird looked tired, yet kind. Its eyes were deep and gentle, holding a sadness that made Elio's chest feel tight, as if someone had carefully tied a ribbon around his heart. "This must be the Firebird," Elio whispered. He remembered hearing the name once. Long ago, in a half-forgotten bedtime story. He had thought it was just a story meant to help children fall asleep. Standing there now, he realized some stories waited until the right moment to wake up. The Firebird tilted its head and blinked slowly, as if it understood every word. Elio stepped closer. The cage door was locked with a simple clasp. No glowing symbols. No magic spells. Just closed. His hand hovered near it, then pulled back. His heart thumped loudly in his ears. Elio had always followed rules, even the ones that made no sense, even the ones that hurt a little. But something about the Firebird felt wrong in a way he couldn't explain, like a promise that had been broken and left forgotten before he could decide what to do. A low rustling sound came from behind him. Elio turned slowly. Out of the shadows stepped a large silver wolf. Its fur shimmered like moonlight on water, each movement smooth and quiet. Its eyes were calm, wise, and full of patience. The wolf did not growl. It did not bare its teeth. It simply stood there, watching Elio as if it had been expecting him all along. Elio felt afraid for exactly one heartbeat then. Strangely, he didn't. "You're beautiful," Elio said softly, surprising himself. The wolf blinked, then sat down, tail curling neatly around its paws. It looked almost polite, like a guest waiting to be invited inside. Elio laughed a small, quiet laugh that felt new in his chest. "You're not here to scare me, are you?" The wolf tilted its head, considering the question, then stood and walked closer to the cage. It sniffed the air gently. The Firebird stirred, its glow growing brighter, warmer. Elio understood then, not with words, but with feeling. The wolf and the bird were connected, not as enemies or guards, but as companions bound by something deeper. Freedom, trust, waiting. "I think you want me to open it," Elio said. The wolf met his eyes, steady and patient, as if saying, "Only if you're ready." Elio's hands trembled as he reached for the clasp. His mind filled with worries. What if he wasn't supposed to do this? What if someone got angry? What if everything changed? Then he looked at the Firebird again. He thought about how heavy his own heart sometimes felt, how quiet wishes stayed locked away, how fear often pretended to be safety. With a soft click, the clasp opened. Nothing exploded. The forest didn't roar. The world didn't end. The cage door creaked open, and the Firebird stretched its wings slowly, carefully, as if remembering how. Warm light spilled out, bathing Elio and the wolf in gold. The Firebird didn't fly away. Instead, it hopped closer and gently touched its beak to Elio's forehead. In that moment, Elio felt something new, bravery without fear, then far away. A sharp sound echoed through the trees, voices, footsteps. The Firebird fluttered nervously. The wolf's ears lifted. "They're coming," Elio whispered, though he didn't know who they were. Somehow, he just knew this place was no longer safe. The wolf stepped closer and lowered itself. Elio hesitated only a second before climbing onto its back, holding the cage carefully. The Firebird remained inside, calm now, its glow steady and reassuring, with smooth, powerful strides. The silver wolf ran. They moved through the forest like a living story, leaping over roots and gliding between trees. Elio clung tightly, his fear slowly melting into excitement. The wind rushed past his face, and for the first time, he wasn't thinking about what might go wrong, he was thinking about what might go right. Behind them, branches shifted gently, paths closing, as if the forest itself was protecting them. Elio laughed, louder than before. "I've never done anything like this." The wolf made a soft sound that almost sounded like a chuckle. They reached a hill overlooking the valley. The moon shone bright and round, lighting the land below. The wolf slowed and stopped. Elio slid down, his legs shaking, his heart light. The Firebird glowed warmly. "I don't know what happens next," Elio said softly, "but I don't think I want to be afraid anymore." The wolf lay beside him, above them. The Firebird fluttered its wings inside the open cage, choosing to stay just a little longer. And as the stars blinked awake, Elio knew this was only the beginning. A quiet beginning, a brave one. The night wrapped around them gently, and somewhere deep in the forest, something old and watchful smiled. The morning arrived quietly, as if it did not want to interrupt anything important. Pale sunlight slipped over the hill where Elio slept, warming his cheeks and making him squint. The light moved slowly, touching the grass, the stones, finally Elio's face like a careful hand, making sure he was truly awake. For a moment, Elio forgot where he was. His mind felt soft and peaceful, like it had been wrapped in a blanket of calm dreams. Then he heard a gentle breathing sound beside him and felt a warm weight near his hands. Elio opened his eyes. The silver wolf lay nearby, stretched out comfortably, its long legs tucked beneath its body. One ear flicked as it noticed Elio stir, and its tail swayed once, slow and relaxed. Nearby, the Firebird rested inside the open cage, its feathers glowing softly like tiny embers that never burned out. The warm light rose and fell gently, almost like a heartbeat. Filling the air with a quiet sense of comfort, Ilio smiled without even thinking about it. "I guess we made it through the night," he whispered, his voice still sleepy. The wolf lifted its head and gave a slow blink. Elio nodded. "I thought so." He sat up and looked around. From the hilltop, the valley stretched wide and open below them, painted in soft morning colors. The fields shimmered with dew, and the distant rooftops looked small and peaceful. The forest behind them no longer felt dark or mysterious. It looked calm, like it had finally relaxed after holding its breath for a very long time. Elio took a deep breath, filling his lungs with cool, fresh air. It felt good. It felt new. Then his stomach made a small complaining sound. "Oh." Elio laughed quietly, pressing a hand against it. "You're right. We should probably eat before you start shouting." As if on cue, the Firebird chirped softly. The sound was light and musical, like a happy bell. Tiny sparks floated upward, twirling playfully before fading into the sunlight. Elio searched through his small bag and found a piece of bread and a dried apple slice. He broke the bread in half and held one piece toward the wolf. The wolf leaned forward and sniffed it carefully. Then, instead of taking it, the wolf gently nudged the bread back toward Elio with its nose. Elio laughed. "Still not interested, huh?" The wolf's tail flicked again. "All right," Elio said, smiling. "More for me." As he ate, Elio began to talk. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because the morning felt honest. Maybe it was because no one was judging him. Or maybe it was because, for the first time, he felt safe enough to share his thoughts out loud. "I don't really know what I'm doing," he admitted, staring at the horizon. "I've never been good at plans. I mostly just listen. Sometimes I worry that listening isn't enough." The Firebird fluttered its wings, sending a warm ripple of light through the air. The glow felt encouraging, like a gentle answer without words. After breakfast, Elio stood and stretched his arms high above his head. "We should keep moving," he said. "I don't think staying in one place is a good idea. Even good moments need to keep going." The wolf rose smoothly and stepped forward, then paused. It turned its head back, toward Elio, eyes thoughtful as if asking a quiet question. "Yes," Elio said with a small nod. Together, they traveled through gentle fields and winding paths, the ground soft beneath their feet. Along the way, Elio noticed little things that made him smile. Flowers leaned toward the Firebird's glow as if curious. Butterflies fluttered alongside them for a while, confused but delighted by the moving light. At one point, the wolf stopped suddenly and stared at a small green frog hopping across the path. The frog froze. They stared at each other, in silence. Then the frog hopped away dramatically, as if it had just seen something very important and needed to tell the world. Elio laughed so hard he had to hold his stomach. "I think we won that staring contest." The wolf made a soft sound that might have been pride. As the day went on, Elio felt lighter with every step. The fear that used to sit in his chest like a heavy stone had softened. It was still there sometimes, but it no longer controlled him. It felt smaller now, like something he could carry instead of something that carried him by afternoon. They reached a clearing where the air felt different, calm, open. The grass shimmered faintly, as if remembering something happy, and the sky seemed wider somehow. Elio stopped walking. The Firebird's glow grew brighter and warmer, filling the clearing with golden light. "I think this is it," Elio said softly. The wolf stepped closer and stood beside him, steady and silent. Elio knelt and placed the cage on the ground. His hands moved slowly, carefully, as he opened it wide. The Firebird stepped out, stretching its wings fully for the first time. The light around it expanded, wrapping the clearing in warmth, like a gentle hug that reached everywhere at once. Elio felt tears sting his eyes, though he was smiling. "You don't have to stay anymore," he whispered. "You're free." The Firebird looked at him for a long moment. Then it chirped brightly and flew upward, circling once above Elio and the wolf. As it soared higher, its light spread across the sky, touching the clouds with shades of gold and orange. The The clearing shimmered, and Elio felt something deep inside him finally settle. As if a long question had found its answer, the Firebird vanished into the sky, leaving behind a warmth that slowly faded. But never truly disappeared. Elio stood quietly. He expected to feel sad instead. He felt peaceful. The wolf nudged his hand gently. "I know," Elio said softly. "I'll miss it too." They stayed there for a while, watching the sky. The wind moved gently through the grass, and the world felt steady and kind. Finally, Elio took a deep breath. "I think it's time for me to go back," he said. "Not to be the same. Just to be me?" The wolf looked at him, eyes thoughtful. "You don't have to come," Elio added quickly. "I understand if you want to stay." The wolf turned and walked a few steps away. Elio's heart tightened for a moment. Then the wolf stopped, turned back, and sat down. Elio laughed, wiping his eyes. "I'll take that as a yes." The journey back felt different. The path seemed clearer. The forest no longer whispered warnings. It felt like a place that had seen enough fear and was ready for something kinder. When Elio reached the edge of the valley, he slowed. He could see the familiar fields, the small homes, the places where his old worries lived. He took one more deep breath. The wolf stood beside him. "You don't have to stay forever," Elio said quietly, resting his hand on the wolf's neck. "But I'd like it if you did, at least for a while." The wolf leaned into his touch, warm and solid. When Elio stepped back into the village, people noticed right away. Not because he was louder or stronger, but because he walked differently. He walked like someone who trusted the ground beneath his feet. Some villagers paused. Some whispered. Some smiled without knowing why. Elio didn't explain. He didn't need to. Over time, things changed. Slowly, gently. Elio listened more. He helped where he could. He smiled more often. And when fear tried to return, he remembered the Firebird's warmth and the wolf's steady presence. At night, Elio would sit near the forest edge again. The silver wolf often lay beside him, watching the stars. Sometimes, when the moon was just right, Elio swore he saw a flicker of golden light far away. Like a friendly reminder, one evening, Elio laughed softly and said, "You know, my life used to feel very small." The wolf flicked its tail. "It doesn't anymore," Elio said. And it was true, because courage didn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It arrived quietly like morning light. It grew through small choices, through kindness, through listening to what mattered. Firebird had flown free. The wolf had chosen to, stayed on, and Elio had learned that a happy ending didn't mean everything stayed the same. It meant becoming brave enough to live honestly. As the stars shimmered above, the valley felt warm and alive, as if it, too, was smiling. And somewhere beyond sight, a gentle glow moved through the sky, carrying a story that would never be forgotten.